What is up, guys? It is DMG here, and today we are going to be looking at what is perhaps the best formation in FIFA 21. And it's not the 4-4-2, it's not the 4-2-3-1, it's not the 3-5-2, and it's not that new 5-3-2 either that everyone seems to be talking about. Instead, we are going to be looking at the 4-3-3 variation 2. So this is the team that I use. Now, obviously, a couple players in here I will replace eventually, like Hiradeski, for example, right? Obviously not that good. But I want you guys to look at these players because obviously, like, a lot of them are very, very, very attacking. In fact, most of them are going to be in the attack, right? Like there's the only defensive-minded player in the midfield and forward is Duncan. He's the only player who is like that, right? Everyone else is an attacker. So saying that means that this is a very attacking formation. It is very, very attacking and very, very fun. You're scoring a lot of goals with it, and you tend to break down teams a lot as well. So going into it, again, the 4-3-3 variation 2, so it has one defensive mid and then two center mids. I want to talk about what makes this formation so good, right? As you can see, this is my setup right here, right? So we have obviously the three attackers, right? The striker, the left, right winger, and then our two center mids are essentially attackers as well, right? They're essentially, center attacking mids, center forwards, even strikers, right? Now, I'm not saying that you have to just go and put strikers there, right? Just because, it would be helpful to have a little bit of defensive support, even though it's not as needed. But, someone with good attack positioning, someone with good shooting and dribbling, passing, that's who you're going to want in those center mid spots, because what they do is they really roam forward, right? So the striker and the two center mids, those guys right there are going to be the bulk of your attack. They're going to be the ones scoring goals and getting assists. Another thing that makes this formation so good is because it really just obliterates the 4-2-3-1, genuinely. Just because against the 4-2-3-1, you have that one central attacking mid where, even though you could have a formation with two defensive mids, that one central attacking mid is going to sneak and slip in between those two defensive mids, and it's going to render them completely useless, versus one defensive mid who's going to be marking that center attacking mid, that one center attacking mid. So in this case, less is more, because it doesn't provide that little bit of a gap in the middle where that center attacking mid could slip in between. And then lastly, this is a great formation to help play out of a press. Now, I did a video about that on how to break the press, especially with this formation. So what it does is it allows essentially an easy kick out, because either the defensive mids are right there, your two center backs are right there, you can kick it to one of those three guys, and then what will happen is that we'll talk about the strikers positioning and instructions later on, but the striker is going to come up a little bit, and then those center mids are going to bomb forward. And what happens in a press is that they are very susceptible to players running down the field. So when you are facing the press, those two center mids who make those late runs bombing forward, going past the striker, the people who are marking them aren't going to mark them very well. So obviously the center mids are going to be completely open and you can get them the ball. First things first, tactics, right? We go on 4 width because for this we want our left and right backs to be pushing in to help a little bit more. With a lot of attackers in the team, we essentially have 5 attackers because the 2 center mids are going to be pushing up a lot. We only have 5 people who are going to be back defending, and we kind of need all of them to do that. So again, a lower width means the left and right backs are going to push in a little bit more to help. And then for the depth, what this allows for being at very high, it allows the defensive mid and the center backs to be closer together, right? So the gap between the defensive mid and the defense is smaller, so then that center defensive mid is able to help out a little bit more defensively. So you could turn this up to 8, 9, 10, right? You can turn it up as much as you want, because then that would lower the gap. But then obviously keep in mind that over the top through balls and things like that are going to be a little bit more common. Now for the attack, obviously corners, free kicks, you can just choose that for yourself. For players in the box, I choose 6 just because, again, this is an attacking formation. We want some more attackers in the box. Now the width is the thing that's a little bit more different, right? Obviously it's supposed to be a wide formation, yet we have the width at 3. right? So the reason why we have the width at 3 is because if you go and use any formation at all, right? Any formation, if you have the ball for a long period of time, or you are defending for a long period of time, no matter what your tactics are, no matter what your instructions are, the players are always going to fall back into their natural position depending on the formation. So for example, in the 4-3-3 version 2, when you have the left winger and the right winger, even though our width is at 3, you know, they're still going to be playing left and right wing if we have the ball for an extended period of time. They're still going to be out wide. So what this lower width does is it forces them to come inside a little bit more. It encourages them to come inside a little bit more, because personally, I don't want wingers to be consistently at the corner flag, touching the sideline every single time we have the ball. I don't want that, even though I am using a wide formation, because when they do that, they are completely isolated out on the wing. The left and right backs on the opposition team don't even need to mark them, because by the time I switch the ball to them, one, they're not going to be in a good enough spot because they're on the sideline, and two, once they take a touch or two inside to get to a better enough spot, the defense is already going to be there. Now moving on to the instructions. So for the goalie, for the two center backs, you can do whatever you want. I just have it on default. That's probably the best case in this situation. Then moving on to the left back and right back, we have them on balanced attack and overlap. Now depending on what your opponent does, you can choose between balance attack and then stay back while attacking, right? So balance attack, what this does, and that's what I put it on initially, is when they go forward a little bit, they're not going to be so far forward that they're attackers, right? But when they do go forward, it'll push our left and right wingers in more. Now our left and right wingers are in cut inside, getting behind, right? Because again, as I mentioned when talking about the width, we don't want them touching the sideline. We don't want them so far isolated out there. So when they do cut in more, they're going to be a little bit actually involved in the attack, right? And so in order to encourage that cut inside mentality, the balanced attack on the left and right backs, when they do go forward, that's going to encourage our left and right wingers to cut inside, because otherwise we'll have two players on the left side, two players on the right side in the exact same position. So if you are playing someone who is, park the bus, 4-4-2, brings every single player back, then yeah, balanced attack is probably going to be the best case for you. But let's say you're a little bit more shaky at defending. Let's say your opponent is actually trying to attack and not being a park the bus scumbum, then, you could potentially put them on stay back while attacking. For the defensive mid, in terms of the instructions, it's going to be a classic defensive mid instruction from what you've seen in, I'm sure, a lot of other instructions videos, right? Stay back while attacking, man mark, cover center, right? Simple as that. The only reason is just because, right, we are essentially making him another center back. For the two center mids, I have them both on cover center, and then I have one of them on balanced, and then the other on get forward. Like I said, this is a very attacking tactic with attacking instructions. So we have one of them on get forward, and then the other one is on balance, just because if we have both of them on get forward, that's going to cause a little bit of congestion in the middle there. And along with that, I also want a little bit of some asymmetry, right? I don't want them both running forward at the same time. So if one runs forward and the other kind of sits back a little bit, that creates a little bit more unpredictability and a little bit more flexibility. Now, we already did talk about the wingers while talking about the left and right backs. So moving on to the final player, the striker, we have him on stay central, false nine, and stay forward. So what this does is he essentially plays like a mix of between a cam, center forward, and striker. So in the build-up play, he does really sit deep. He really tends to come up and essentially bridge that link between the two center mids and then the attack. And that's also why we have one of the center mids on get forward, is so then when our striker does try to come up and play that center forward, center attacking mid role, the center mid who's on get forward can run in behind him and then fill that role. That's what we have it on false nine. We have him on stay central because we have two center mids who are running right past him, essentially. We have wingers on each side. He doesn't need to go out wide by any means. And then we have him on stay forward because, as I said, with the wing backs specifically, right, or with the wingers, I should say, when players are when players have the ball for a very long period of time, they're always going to go to their natural position, right? So even though he's on false nine, if you have the ball for a while, he's still going to go and play a striker, So now, in terms of who you want in these spots, for goalie, for center backs, doesn't really matter. You can choose whoever you want, right? Obviously, whatever works for you. For the left and right backs, they're not going to be involved as they are in some other formations that I have. So you can kind of just go with whoever you want. So now for the defensive mid, we actually want him to be essentially, like I said before, another center back. So I'm not saying that he will literally never be involved in the attack, because there may be some odd time where he does get forward for some random reason. But, you know, essentially you could you could play another center back in this spot. You really could, because, and again, that's why we want that position to think, right? We want him to think like a center back. We want him to be a essentially another defender. So again, they don't necessarily have to be good at shooting. They, in fact, you don't have to be good shooting at all. You know, maybe good at passing, maybe good at dribbling, because again, he's still a midfielder. They're still going to be good on the ball. It's not like they're never going to touch the ball, or rarely touch the ball like the defenders are. So again, as long as it's, you know, a center back who's good on the ball, or just a very defensive-minded center mid or defensive mid, that's all you need in that spot. For the two center mids, as I said before, they are essentially just going to be attackers. They're going to be strikers. It would be nice if they, you know, had some defensive capabilities, you know, like Hullet obviously would just be the best example for this, right? He's obviously really good at attacking, but defensively he can also be capable as well, right? So that's going to be the obvious player there. But you still want, you know, mostly attackers in the spot, right? I'm running Bergkamp, I'm running Gnabry, right? They're obviously attackers. They don't have any defensive capabilities, and it's completely fine, right? So no worries there. I will also mention that they will be running up and down the field a lot, so be prepared to have some subs. For the left and right wingers, they are almost like dummies, right? They're just kind of there for a distraction. That's not to say that they're not important, though, because, you know, they still will get certain opportunities. So I will also mention that you do want the left-footed player on the right side so they can shoot, and then the right-footed player on the left side so they can shoot. And then finally, for the striker position, this is probably your most important player, right? Along with your two center mids. But this striker essentially has got to be able to do everything, right? He's got to be fast, he's got to be able to shoot, he's got to be able to pass, he's got to be able to dribble. He has to do literally everything, right? He has to be your best player. So if you're looking at who you want to buy in terms of players and how you want to spread your coins out, right? I would say obviously for the defense, you know, that's pretty important, just because you do want good players, because there's not a whole lot of defensive support. As long as you have a big physical defensive mid, that's kind of all you need. For the wingers, as long as you have some decently fast players who can shoot okay, right? Like Lucas Moura, for example, that'd be totally fine, right? He'd go and play left wing, that'd be totally fine. It would be your striker and your two center mids. Those would be the three spots specific that you really need to focus on, specifically that striker role. That is going to be the most important player on the field. So that is going to do it for this video. Again, if you do have any questions, let me know and I'll try to answer them for you guys. But like I said, that is going to do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been DMG. Peace.